Hello everyone, it's Octodraws and welcome to Lesson 10, the first and second aorist indicative and infinitive active of omega verbs. Ha ti kalon, pilon aye. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, from The Bacchae by Euripides. I think a little bit more of a literal translation would be here. Whatever is beautiful is always loved. Ha ti, meaning whatever, kalon, meaning beautiful, pilon, loved, and aye means forever or always. 54. The aorist. Aorist is the name of a tense of the Greek verb. The name is not used in the inflection of Latin or English verbs, but many of its functions are entirely familiar. So, meaning, we have a pretty similar tense in English, but we just call it a different name. The aorist indicative in Greek expresses a single act, that is, not continued or repeated in past time. To clarify that, the book tells you that the aorist is like a picture, whereas the imperfect is kind of like a video. Then it gives you this example here, epauon, meaning I was stopping in the imperfect, and then epausa, meaning I stopped in the aorist. The first aorist indicative of pao, I stop, epausa, epausas, epause, epausamen, epausate, epausan. The first aorist infinitive, pausai. So there's two things that help you recognize the aorist. One is that there's this sigma that goes before, there's a sigma that goes right before the ending, and then there's also an alpha in the ending. This alpha can really be seen everywhere except for the third person singular. The first aorist infinitive, pausai. Again, you can see the sigma followed by the alpha. The second aorist has the exact same endings as the imperfect, as you see, on, es, amen, ete, on. And you can tell that it's a second aorist infinitive because of this accent right here. The second aorist infinitive is always going to have an accent on this iota. The formation of the aorist. A. The aorist, in common with other secondary tenses, in the indicative has an augment and secondary endings. So that just means, just like any other past tense, when it's in the indicative, you're going to augment or lengthen the first vowel, or you're going to add a vowel to the beginning of the word. It also uses secondary endings, such as on, es, amen, ete, and on. B. The distinguishing feature of the first aorist is the suffix sa or se in the third singular, which obeys the same phonetic laws as the sigma of the future. There is this sigma that's going to be added to the root of every single verb, lest it be a second aorist, in which case it gets a little funky. C. The first aorist infinitive active is always accented on the penult. So that just means that in the first aorist infinitive, the accent is always going to go right here because here's the final syllable, and then the penult goes back one syllable. And it gives you two examples with athroisai and harpasai. D. Some verbs lack a first aorist. Such verbs often have a second aorist, a distinguishing feature of which is a weakening of the vowel element of the stem, or root. So that is a pretty long sentence. A lot of verbs don't have this first aorist, meaning they don't have the sigma added to it. Instead, what they're going to do is weaken the vowel element of the stem. And then, for example, it gives you this epsilon iota diphthong, which then gets shortened into just an iota. Similarly, this epsilon upsilon u diphthong just gets turned into u. And the corresponding infinitive has an accent like that of the present infinitive, but it is accented irregularly on the ultima. It has this accent on the final syllable, and it's always, pretty much always, going to be a circumflex. E. The third form in the principal parts of a normal verb shows by the presence of sa or on whether the aorist is a first or second. Likewise, it wants you to inflect luo and pugo, but for right now, we're not going to do that. 56 pretty much just tells you that there are no differences between the first and second aorist in meaning, and it's really only in its spelling. Epausa, first aorist, means I stopped, and elapon, also, which is second aorist, is I left, and their meanings pretty much are the same. You did one thing once in the past. 57. Tenses of the infinitive. The infinitive, except in indirect discourse, has no time value. The present infinitive denotes a continuance or repeated action, meaning a video, while the aorist infinitive denotes a single occurrence, such as a picture. Ethele pugain. He wishes to keep on fleeing. This is a present infinitive because of this epsilon right here. Whereas ethele pugain, he wishes to flee. Pugain does not have an epsilon because the root has its vowel shortened. This being present shows a continuous action, whereas the aorist is a single action. Here we have the Arch of Hadrian, and hopefully Wikipedia does not get me in a lot of trouble for using their image. I have the article right here, so if you want to get this image for real, the Arch of Hadrian. Hadrian, one of the good emperors of Rome, showed his love for Athens by beautifying the city. This arch bears on its western face the legend, "This is the Athens of Theseus, the former city." And on the eastern face, "This is the city of Hadrian, not Theseus." So Hadrian is kind of poking fun at the Greeks. You're getting imperialized. How does that feel? Like, not a little bit mean, but 58 vocabulary. Entautha, adverb. There at that place. This word is like you're kind of pointing at something, like you are right there. Entouthen is an adverb, and it means from there or thence. So it's motion away from somewhere. Epistole, eis he, a letter. One common derivative is epistle, which is a letter. It's the saints writing letters to their different churches. Echo, hexo, have. Eskon, got. And it gives you the first principal part, the second principal part, and this third principal part. The first principal part being the present, the second principal part being the future, and the third principal part being the aorist. The footnote is telling you that this sigma gets pushed back into the breathing mark right there when it's in the future. Lepo, lepso, elapon, to leave. One derivative that it gives us is eclipse. An eclipse is quite literally when the sun leaves. Loipos e on, left remaining. Ta loipon, so this adjective as a substantive in the neuter singular can also mean the future. Some examples that it gives you are KTL, which we have seen in this book. So it's kind of strange that they define it here. So capital lambda is really kai ta loipa. So loipos as a substantive adjective in the neuter plural can mean the remaining things. So when you say etc. and the other things, it really means the exact same thing as and the remaining things. Great way to boost your resume, adding etc. at the end of lines when you actually don't really know what else to put. Oikia, as he, house, economy. This oi is actually just shortened to become the e. Pule ace he, gate, plural, the pass. Pylon is one of the derivatives it gives you, like when Justin Jefferson is diving for the end zone and he's forced to the sideline, he might jump for the pylon as opposed to getting his feet down in the end zone. Thermopylae. Thermopylae is where the Battle of the 300 went down. Originally, 7,000 Greeks fought against 100,000 to around 300,000 Persians. Or, if you want to believe Herodotus, 100 bajillion gillion, an uncountable number of Persians fought against the Greeks. This is where Leonidas led the 300 Spartans against the Persians so that the rest of the crew could escape when the Persians found a shortcut around them. 59 exercises. A. Translate. 1. Dia tein pilion, hos strategos etele epistolem grapsai. Dia plus accusative is because of, so because of the friendship, the general, this os ending, we know that it's a nominative, wishes to write grapsai, a letter. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't really give you a dative when you usually write a letter to someone. 2. Hoi loipoi, anthropoi, hup obtusan, ton on. So the remaining men, which is our subject, as you can see with this oi ending, huptusan, suspected, ton angelon, the messenger. Enomisa, tus loipus, hupoptusai, tus tu angelu lagus. Here we have to look to our verb for the subject, enomisa, meaning I thought. Noun in an accusative infinitive, so there's probably going to be an indirect statement. Hupoptusai, suspected, so enomisa, I thought. Accusative, the remaining men. Since this us ending is masculine, that means that the remaining has to be men. Hupoptusai, suspected, this sigma alpha is dead giveaway that it's an aorist infinitive. Tus lagus, the words, genitive of possession of the messenger. Altogether, I thought the remaining men suspected the words of the messenger. 4. Epese tous pilus tas oikias lusai. Again, we have to look for a verb to find our subject, epese, so either he, she, or it, third person singular. Persuaded, now, after persuaded, we should expect an accusative. So, his friends, lusai, to destroy, tas oikias, the houses. Together, it's he persuaded his friends to destroy the houses. Although we have two accusatives, only one of them can be the subject of this indirect discourse. Here, tous pilus and tas oikias. Usually, people are doing more subjects than houses or objects, so I think it's a safe bet that tous pilus is the subject of lusai, even though they're both grammatically able to do so. And tautha, elipete tous hippus. So y'all left. Tous hippus are accusative direct object, the horses, and tautha is an adverb, so we can just put it at the end, meaning right there. You left the horses right there. 6. Entuthen epempsamen ton angelon paratas tu strategu turas. Entuthen, from there, look for our verb to find our subject. Epempsamen, we sent, ton angelon, the messenger, para plus accusative, meaning alongside, paratas turas, alongside the doors or the court, tu strategu, genitive of possession, of the general. Alternatively, you can say, from there, we sent the messenger alongside the general's court. 7. Hupoptuamen, tain pulakein pugain, ekton oikion. Look to our verb for our subject. We suspect. Hupoptuamen is a head verb, so we should be expecting indirect discourse. Here we see tain pulakein and pugain, so an accusative plus an infinitive, which is on par for indirect statement. So we suspect the guard, tain pulakein, pugain, to flee, ek plus genitive, from tono oikion, from the houses. Altogether, we suspect the guard to flee from the houses. 8. Dia ton pulon, epugon hoi loipoi polemioi. Through the gates, dia plus genitive, epugon hoi loipoi polemoi. Here we have a subject, hoi loipoi polemoi, so the remaining enemies, epugon, they fled. Be complete. So sk for singular, alpha ending, dora axia. We're looking for our accusative plurals. Sk, you usually get something, so we should probably have an accusative. Dora axia. You can either have it as doron axion or dora axia, worthy gifts. It doesn't really matter. Uk tele ha strategos tas pool leap. Ha strategos is our subject, ethele is our verb, the general wishes, adverb meaning not, so the general does not wish. We should have an infinitive somewhere, right there, lipain, which is an aorist infinitive with an accent right there. So he does not want to leave. What does he not want to leave? Another accusative, tas poulas. 3. I guess everyone makes mistakes, but some people like to make mistakes twice. Tain stration has to be feminine, therefore it's tain stration. Tain stration has to be the accusative because it has to govern this infinitive pugain right there. C. Write in Greek. We shall seize the horses in the country. We shall seize we can translate as harpazo. I put this C right there because it's in the future instead of harpazo. Then because this omega is long, the accent only goes back one spot to the penult. We shall seize the horses. The direct object must be in the accusative tous hippus. In directly gets translated to N. N, it exclusively takes the dative, the country, tai komai. 2. He thinks that the enemies are guarding the road. I think this previously said enemy, but we don't really say enemy as a plural in modern English. We definitely use the S at the end. So he thinks can be translated as namidze without putting like an autos or anything and just putting this epsilon at the end. And when you think something, you usually want an infinitive because you're going to say some indirect statement. So somebody's guarding, and we can say pou latin. So he believes that the enemy's accusative, because if it's going to be governing indirect statement, it has to be an accusative. So tous polemius, the enemies, are guarding pulatain, the road, which is the object of this statement. Therefore, it also has to be in the accusative. Tain hodon. Remember that hodon is feminine. Do you intend to pursue the general? So do you intend can be translated as meles, this ace ending, to pursue, diokain, the guard, which is the object, and because it's the object, it has to be in the accusative, tain pulakain. This question mark becomes what's a semicolon looking thing. 4. I think the messenger will persuade the general. I think can get directly translated as namidzo. Just remember that the accent goes on this iota. Sorry, I made another mistake. Namidzo, I think that. When you think something, you're usually going to introduce indirect statements, so we need some kind of verb for that. And in Greek, we want an infinitive. So will persuade is our verb. Translate that into peisein, with the sigma making it a future infinitive. Then the messenger, the subject, also has to be an accusative, ton angelon. Since it's the direct object of will persuade, we need to make this another accusative. So the general, ton strategon. 5. With the shout, they will break the strong door. With the shout is a pretty clear dative. This with is a giveaway. So, tai kraugai, with the shout, they will break, which we can translate as lususi. We don't need to write they because it's in the ending. Then they're going to break something, which is a direct object, the strong door. Tain iskuran turan. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time. Remember, be positive and be yourself. Peace.